अस्सलाम वालेकुम नाज़रीन, आज स्पेशल में आपको कहेंगे खुशामदीद। मैं हूं आपका मेज़बान सऊद ज़फ़र। आज हमारे साथ बरतानवी सहाफ़ी मौजूद हैं, युवान रिडली। आपकी खासी शोहरत है और अपने सहाफ़ती करियर में आपने 2 किताबें भी लिखी हैं। एक किताब जिसका नाम है इन द हैंड्स ऑफ तालिबान और दूसरी टिकट टू पैराडाइज। आपकी वजह शोहरत 28 सितंबर 2001 जब युवान रिडली को अफगानिस्तान में तालिबान ने अगवा किया था, जब वो अपने अखबार संडे एक्सप्रेस के लिए काम करती थी और अपनी सहाफ़ती जिम्मेदारियों के लिए वहाँ पे अफगानिस्तान में मौजूद थी, और जब उनको अगवा कर लिया गया था उसके बाद उनकी रिहाई भी मुमकिन हुई, जिसमें पाकिस्तान ने भी अपना किरदार अदा किया था और बरतानिया ने भी अपना किरदार अदा किया था। युवान रिडली आज हमारे साथ मौजूद हैं, आइए उनसे कुछ गुफ्तगू का आगाज करते हैं। अस्सलाम वालेकुम युवान।
वालेकुम सलाम।
You've been a working journalist yourself since long, have been a field reporter, a writer, an author, and now you've become a politician, an activist, a very vocal person for very international issues, many. How do you take this transformation of yours, and how do others take this transformation?
Well, I guess it's been a natural progression. I mean, quite a few journalists have gone into politics, so it's not that unusual. The reaction to me has been quite mixed. I tend to polarize people. They either love me or hate me, and people get a very fixed idea of who I am, and that's sad because I think that I'm more than this one-dimensional person that some people like to portray.
Back in 2001, your captivity, how do you remember those days? Any negative feeling or some other thing?
The real negativity I have is what transpired after I was released, and people asked me, how were you treated? I told the truth. I was treated with courtesy and respect, and this is not what people wanted to hear. You can't drop bombs on nice people. People wanted me to come out and say I was brutalized, I was tortured, I was abused. In fact, everything that happened to inmates of Abu Ghraib and Bagram, people expected those sort of tales from me. What they didn't expect was me to emerge unscathed and say I was treated with courtesy and respect. But that was the truth. Had I been brutalized, I would have said they did this. But they were very nice to me, and because I told the truth, I have been labelled a Taliban apologist. If I had come out and invented a pack of lies, I would be a very wealthy woman now. I would be feted by the American neocons. I'd probably have a couple of visiting professorships at universities in America, and people would probably hail me here, there and everywhere. Instead, it's, oh, that Taliban apologist. So the truth, is telling the truth can be almost a revolutionary act.
And telling the truth, you yourself as a journalist, you've already been doing that before your conversion and after your conversion. Is there any difference?
Well, I'm still the same person. It's people's reaction to me that's quite different. I mean, as a journalist working in a newsroom, it's one of the most godless places that there is.
Exactly.
And a lot of our colleagues are secularists. And I have always had a belief in God. I was a practicing Christian before I converted to Islam. But I was able to get away with my religion with total anonymity because there was nothing overt to reveal me as a Christian. And so I was able to follow my faith unhindered. The moment I put on a hijab, I was immediately propelled to the front lines defending Islam. And people were attacking me simply because of this cloth. This is what identifies me as a Muslim woman. I still wear Western clothes, I still dress in Western fashions, but I cover. and it is the hijab, and it just brings down a red mist in some people's eyes.
When you were a Westerner, you were a Christian, a practicing Christian, as you said. How you took those veiled Muslim women? You probably saw them in UK and other parts of the world.
Well, I have to hold my hands up and admit, if I had seen a group of Muslim women wearing veils, I would think, oh, look at those poor subjugated women. Oppressed,
as they say.
Uneducated. And now I see a Muslim woman wearing a veil, and I look at her and I wonder, has she got a degree, an MA, a PhD? Is she an engineer? Is she a doctor, a lawyer? Is she running a family as well? Is she the backbone of her community? And I just see a multi-skilled, multi-talented woman in front of me. Just the other day, I had lunch with a group of women from Jamaat Islami. They are demonized even in Pakistan.
They are.
There are probably more PhDs in the women's group than any other women's group in Pakistan, in the entire region.
So you say this whole attire is a personal thing?
Most Muslim women I meet wear what they wear out of choice. I have yet to meet a Muslim woman who's pulled me aside and said, I don't want to wear my hijab. What I have had in Britain are Muslim girls coming to me saying, I want to wear the hijab, but my parents won't let me. What advice would you give? And some of these girls are leaving home without the hijab, and as soon as they get round the corner, they're putting their hijab on. And it's quite sad that parents are afraid of this religious identity. There have been times where young Muslim women have come to me to ask me to intervene on their behalf. And I'm always very cautious because, teenagers have very fixed ideas, parents have very fixed ideas, and never the twain shall meet. So I'm always very wary. But when I have interfered or intervened, it's because the girls have come to me saying, I want a university education, and my parents don't want me to go to university. And I have intervened on maybe a dozen occasions now and gently talked to the parents about why, they should allow their daughters to go off to university. Sons, it isn't usually a problem, but it's their daughters. And what I say to the girls as well is this is all about trust. And when you go to university, just remember and respect the trust that your parents have placed in you. And if you do well and you emerge educated and with even more goals in your life, then this will open the doors for other young Muslim girls who also want to go to university. And the girls have gone on and they've done incredibly well, and they've become career women, and the parents have been very happy.
We would like you to shed some more light on your professional work and all, but we have to take a break right now. नाज़रीन, एक ब्रेक लेते हैं और उसके बाद युवान रिडली से गुफ्तगू का सिलसिला जारी रखेंगे. आज ही ब्रेक के बाद एक बार फिर आपको कहेंगे खुशामदीद. युवान रिडली हमारे साथ आज स्पेशल में मौजूद हैं. उनसे गुफ्तगू का सिलसिला मजीद आगे बढ़ाते हैं. युवान, नाउ वी वुड लाइक टू आस्क यू अबाउट योर प्रोफेशनल एक्सपीरियंस, एंड your transformation into a politician and this thing. You told us about your Taliban's captivity experience and all that. Now you are also running a pressure group, or rather a campaign group. What is it, and what is the main idea behind it?
Yes, I'm a supporter of a group called CAGE, which was born out of the injustices of Guantanamo Bay after the War on Terror. It's now expanded its brief and isn't just concerned with prisoners who are still being held without charge or trial in the War on Terror. It is also concerned with all the other injustices that have spilled over and affected Muslims in their daily life, like travelling overseas and being stopped by the authorities and questioned, people who are profiled and persecuted purely because of their skin colour or because of the way they pray. And it is making quite an impact in the UK. The government is now beginning to realise that this campaign group has its finger on the pulse of the Muslim community, and it does a lot of advocacy work as well. Mm-hmm. So it's grown and developed and concerned about human rights.
Mm-hmm. Now here comes the phenomenon of Islamophobia. Vandalism cases and Islamophobia cases, they occur in the West, in UK, Europe, or you can say in America. There are many cases reported on a daily basis. Does it really exist, or just brought up for some the vested interests of the West or of the East or anywhere?
No, Islamophobia does exist. It's actually a very long word for racism, mm-hmm. I think. And as a white working class person, I never expected to encounter this sort of hate. But again, since I put on the hijab, I've had death threats, I've had abuse. I have been told while I'm walking through London to go back home, wherever home is. Like many Muslims in Britain, I was born there. I don't have another home. And, and I am not targeted because of who I am. Mm-hmm. I'm targeted because of my hijab, mm-hmm. because I am obviously a Muslim woman. Islamophobia is quite tangible. I have seen sisters being verbally abused, physically abused. We have had some horrendous cases which have resulted in deaths. In Germany, there was the hijab martyr, the woman who was stabbed to death in a court. Yes, Islamophobia does exist. It is a very worrying trend. But on the plus side, Islam is growing in the West. It is the fastest growing religion in the West, and since 9/11 more than 100,000 people have embraced Islam in the UK. A large majority are women, professional women in their late 20s, early 30s, who are attracted by the way of life that Islam offers. I keep telling Muslim women that, the moment we put a hijab on, we become an ambassador of our faith, and that we should go out there with confidence and try and achieve the best that we can, because we are constantly being judged, not as individuals, but as Muslims.
And advocate for your religion also.
Yes. And, we need to be more unified. Mm-hmm. We're living in an age now where it's trendy to be godless, where it's trendy to be a secularist, and unfortunately I see it growing in Pakistan, a country which I love and regard as my second home, but there is a growing element who think that it's trendy to mock those who follow Islam. For some bizarre reason they think it endears them to Westerners, which is rather strange, but whatever their reasons, and some of this drive to attack Islam is it's quite shocking, and it shows a great level of intolerance on their part. I certainly don't go around trying to convert people to Islam, and I feel as though they shouldn't go out and try and dissuade people from following their faith, whether it's Christianity, Islam, or another faith. We all need to be more tolerant.
Okay. There were phenomena like extremists, then they become Islamists, and now jihadist phenomenon is coming up these days. Especially I'm talking about the media and West media. How do you take this thing, being a journalist yourself?
Well, it's difficult in the Western media. We live in a Zappa society. Viewers, readers have the attention span of a water gnat. They move on very quickly to different things and sit in front of their TV and press away. I had a meeting recently with Pakistan journalists, and I was praising the media here because I can still pick up a paper and get in-depth analysis from well-briefed column writers who can let you know what is going on, no matter how complicated the story is. Now, in the West and in the tabloid media, they can't handle a story with more than 2 or 3 strands. So, for instance, the Pakistan Taliban, as far as the West is concerned, they're the same as the Afghan Taliban, and they are all the same.
They're all the same.
And that's it.
Yeah.
And they can't look beyond the word Taliban, which is, as you know, totally wrong. The Pakistan Taliban are nothing like the Afghan Taliban. And in Pakistan, the Taliban here are 20, 30, maybe 40 different groups, funded inside and outside of Pakistan. You can't run a bombing campaign on a shoestring budget.
Right.
These are state-sponsored campaigns, and this is so complicated and mind-blowing for the West, and they don't like to think of it in that light, and so they tend to either shy away from it or go for the simple narrative, all Taliban are bad, and that's it, when in fact what they should be doing is, who are they? Who's funding them? Which dark forces are involved? Are there any intelligence agencies involved? Why would another country want to fight a proxy war in Pakistan? And anybody listening to this from the West will think, oh, she's a crazy conspiracy theorist. But I know that your viewers are much more sophisticated than that, and they'll say, yes, she's quite right. There are all these different strands, all these different elements. And destroying. The one thing that I would say is I don't know a single Pakistani who has rejoiced in the death of men, women and children in a marketplace bombing.
Or in a mosque.
Or in a mosque, or a cinema, or on a school bus.
Exactly.
This is, it is not the character or nature of Pakistani people. It's certainly not the character or nature of Islam. And you can take the most distorted version, twisted version of Islam, and it's still not there. It's just an abomination.
Exactly. You've been yourself an advocate for Taliban since you got out of their captivity. A bit positive image you've brought up of these Talibans. But now Afghanistan is also holding talks with them. Pakistan is also in the same process.
The Americans want to get out of Afghanistan. It's been a complete disaster from start to finish. Not only have they become the problem, they're certainly not the solution. It has been an unmitigated disaster, which was said by Hamid Karzai just a few days ago when he said the Americans have brought death and destruction to Afghanistan. Whichever way you look at it, you can't spin any sort of success out of the occupation of Afghanistan. Pakistan, the Taliban, it's a totally different situation here. But with both scenarios, the only way is to sit down and talk. And talking is far more preferable than bombing. I'm much more hopeful in peace talks in Pakistan than peace talks in Afghanistan, because America is a new country compared to this region, which has a history going back thousands of years. America doesn't have a history. It's a fresh new country, still out of the wrapper, and they are no good at international diplomacy. They've yet to learn and develop the wisdom and the nuances of international diplomacy, which is why I'm much more hopeful that when the talks finally do take place here in Pakistan, they will be successful. The pictures that I've seen so far, though, there is one element missing. Where are the women? The women have to be at the table. We are half the Ummah. We gave birth to the other half. Women should be represented in the peace talks. We
will ask you about your pro-Palestinian, pro-Iran campaigns and your advocacy, but after this very short break. नाज़रीन, एक ब्रेक लेते हैं और ब्रेक के बाद गुफ्तगू का सिलसिला आगे बढ़ाएंगे. एक बार फिर आपको ब्रेक के बाद कहेंगे खुशामदीद. आज स्पेशल में हमारे साथ युवान रिडली बरतानवी सहाफ़ी मौजूद हैं. उनसे गुफ्तगू का सिलसिला आगे बढ़ाते हैं. युवान, बिफोर वी टुक अ ब्रेक, वी वांटेड टू आस्क यू अबाउट यू बीइंग वोकल अबाउट दीज कॉन्फ्लिक्ट्स इन पैलेस्टाइन, इराक, इजराइल, अफगानिस्तान, चेचनिया एंड आल्सो our part of this world, Kashmir. Do you really think all these conflicts are they domestic problems, or some other countries or some outside forces are pushing them?
Well, you mentioned Kashmir. I addressed a rally in Lahore recently for Kashmir Day, and Kashmir was a political football dropped in by the British, who then walked off the pitch and left Pakistan and India at loggerheads with each other. More than 63 years now.
Since our independence.
Yeah. And Kashmiris, they need to have a say in their own future, and there should be a referendum. But of course, there's a lot of political manipulation from India's side to destabilise and undermine the area. And I feel so sorry for the Kashmiris. They must feel like Palestinians. A very similar issue. They feel as though they're occupied by an outside force. But also with Kashmir, they're virtually forgotten. Now, quite why that is, I know they're not forgotten in Pakistan.
They never will be.
Yes, well, that's good, alhamdulillah. But the rest of the world seems to pick up and put Kashmir down very quickly, and I'm not sure why that is, because it is a grave injustice, and the Kashmiris do deserve to get justice. But they have the same DNA, the same determination as the Palestinians. Another area where the British, again, promised a piece of land that didn't belong to them and gave it to somebody else. And, you know, we have the injustice that is Palestine. More than 6 decades there as well. But I know that whether it takes 20, 30, 40, 50, 100 years, that Kashmiris and Palestinians will get justice. Because, as I said, it's in their DNA. Resistance is their duty, because they know what is their land, they know what is right, and they are not going to give up that fight. So.
And what about Syria?
Syria, I could cry over Syria. We have Muslims on the ground killing Muslims. And if you got these, and they are majority men, if we got them all together and said, why are you fighting? They would all say, because we want rid of Bashar al-Assad, a brutal dictator. Who is the enemy? They would all say Assad. And then they start killing each other instead of going to try and get rid of the tyrant. And again, you have to look at why this is happening. And there are 4, 5, maybe half a dozen other countries fighting proxy wars in Syria.
And within their countries, they're fighting war against their own brothers. Is this the same case in Egypt, you think?
Egypt. Egypt is a classic example of what happens when you don't have unity. Now then, 3 years ago, 3 years ago this time, I was standing in Tahrir Square speaking to a crowd of more than 1 million people to say, we are with you, we are supporting you, and screaming, Ehud Mubarak, you know, get Mubarak out. And it was an amazing occasion. I was privileged to be there. And now I look, and the dream has gone, has evaporated overnight. Not only for practicing Muslims or the Muslim Brotherhood, but for the secularists, for the other parties. Why? Because they didn't stay together. That you have to have solidarity in a people's movement. It was obvious that the Muslim Brotherhood were always going to be the main party of the people, because they've been around for 60 years doing welfare and social work and building a strong movement, waiting for the day when the dictator would be toppled. So it was a no-brainer that they were going to win. And the left was fractured, and now there's no freedom of speech. Journalists are being arrested and locked up. You know, I said before, telling the truth can be a revolutionary act.
Exactly.
It can get you locked up in Egypt, and it's sad.
Okay, locking up, it reminds me of Prisoner 650. What does it click to you? How did you get attached to Dr. Afia Siddiqui? You've been advocating for her quite a long time.
I did some filming inside Guantanamo Bay for 4 days, and when I came out, I was really shocked by what I had seen there. And I spoke with Moa Zambeg, who's an outreach director for Cage. And he said he's still haunted by the woman's screams that he heard in Bagram. That started me off on this journey to find out who is this woman. I came to Pakistan, begged the media for help. They responded magnificently, and soon we established she was 650, and then we established she must be Afia Siddiqui. And then Afia appeared in Afghanistan and was shot by American soldiers. And then she was kidnapped, renditioned, and put on trial for an alleged crime committed in Afghanistan. And this crazy court case which had no legal bearing whatsoever, went ahead, and she got 86 years. She is the most wronged woman on the planet today, and I will not rest until I secure her release or get help to get her released. And I came over to Pakistan this time at the invitation of a fledgling organisation called the Muslim Ummah Solidarity Forum, and their primary concern is with unity. But I said, while I'm here, I have to visit Afia's family, and we met. And of course, despite all the promises from various governments, ministers in Pakistan over the years, the daughter of the nation is still being locked up in this Texan hellhole, and we need to get her out. And to me, the easiest way of doing it is knocking on the American door and saying, let her serve her sentence out in Pakistan. I have sat and talked to previous government ministers. They've slammed their fists down, they've thumped the tables. We will bring her back. And then they go in for a meeting with the Americans, and they're like that. Where can we kiss your feet? You know, and they don't ask about Afia at all. And they tell the Pakistani people one thing, and they tell the Americans another. And of course, this all came to light when the American government was asked, so how is the process going on for Afia Siddiqui? And it was who? What? Nobody's asked us. They have to ask. You know, the Americans want something from Pakistan at the moment. They want Dr. Afridi. He's a man of no worth. Let them have him. In return for Afia.
Right.
And I can't think of a single one of your viewers who would disagree.
You are a journalist. A journalist tells stories, give the news to public, the viewers. How does it feel when you yourself become a story?
Awful. We don't want to be in the headlines. You know, our role is to go out and inform people. And I said before, I worked as an undercover journalist. That came to an abrupt end when my picture went global. So I had to reinvent myself. And I became involved in humanitarian issues. And if I do have a little bit of fame or notoriety and I can use it to help others, then why not? And, you know, I've got a platform now and I will use it, and wherever I can to fight against injustices and try and bring some unity to this great ummah, this great faith. I mean, people say, what ummah? It doesn't exist. Yes, it does. And I see it, especially in the meetings that I have with women across the world, because you don't get disunity from sisters. They come together, women of faith and no faith, and they all want one thing, and that's peace.
True. One more thing, and I think it would be last. Now people, viewers or general public, they have access and excess of information. Are they getting numbed, or they getting, you think they're getting too much of information these days?
Well, you know, you're getting it on Twitter, Facebook, other social networks.
Too much of info.
Hundreds of channels, newspapers in the West are headlines, pictures, and a few little paragraphs, which is why I love coming to Pakistan, a country where people are prolific newspaper readers. They like to sit and analyse the news, and when I sit at the breakfast table, I can really get great analysis from some of the major newspapers, and there are in-depth programs like this, and where you can get a sense or a feeling of what is happening. But we do live in a Zappa society, and I'm happy still to see that the print media appears to be thriving in Pakistan.
Thank you very much, Uwan, for giving us so much precious time of yours and giving our viewers an opportunity to let them know about yourself. Thank you very much.
Thank you.
नाज़रीन, प्रोग्राम आज स्पेशल से सऊद ज़फ़र को और हमारी मेहमान युवान रिडली को इजाज़त दीजिए। अल्लाह हाफ़िज़।
आज ही यकम